Hey, how's it going, Ben?
Hey, LZ, how are you, sir?
I am good. And yourself?
I'm doing fantastically.
Awesome.
Just gonna take a quick second to get our sound check in place, make sure that you're able to be heard and that I'm able to be heard.
Okay. No problem.
And as soon as I get the thumbs up from the folks on stream, and it looks like we're good to go. All right, great.
All right. So I'm come to the conclusion that we're working on solely 2-Racks play, right?
Yeah, that's going to be our focus.
Okay.
If nothing else, then 2-Racks openings that lead into whatever. If we sit down and play a 30-minute macro game, that would be fine with me. But I really want to focus on how to get through the first first 8 to 10 minutes.
Yes. All right.
I'd kind of like to start things off for asking what your perspective is on 2-Racks as a Terran player. How do you feel about the build? What's the benefits of it for you, and why would you 2-Racks against a Zerg player versus doing something else?
Okay. First off, I think the build is great. I love the opening. It's actually my favorite opening to use. I think I used it. I was playing Rhett like 2 days ago, and I was using the 2-Racks opening every game, and I like the opening just for the fact that I'm able to put pressure on my opponent and able to, force him to use some of his larvae that he'd want to build, drones, and make him force them to build some Zerglings or an extra spine crawler or something like that. And so, but it's not necessarily I have to attack or I have to put this pressure on. It's just like the threat or the thought of the pressure I could put on him.
Gotcha. All right. Well, could you maybe walk us through like an ideal situation for you as a Terran player? Like we're playing a game on, Metalopolis. If you could have it unfold, however, like to the best possible scenario for you, how would that go?
Okay. We would spawn, like we'd be close, but not like air distance, but like the other, like I'd be 6 o'clock and you'd be 3 o'clock, for example. Like that would be like ideal Terran situation positioning for, especially for like a 2-Racks opening, because Marines get there that much quicker. But I'm not a fan of like the all-in Marine SCV, the Foxer style, where you just like rely on your 1 mule mining for reinforcements or your late game strategy. I'm not a fan of that, but it is still viable, and it's still so viable that it makes it could keep Zerg like thinking about it. It's like, okay, I might need some extra units because he could send all of his SCVs and probably kill me or something.
Right.
But that would be the ideal scenario for like positioning and stuff. Now, how the game unfolds, most Zergs play almost identical nowadays. Like you almost see every Zerg play the Mutiling Baneling, and sometimes they'll throw in like an Infestor or two or something like that. But it's still pretty much absolutely standard. But the close positioning like that allows Terran to be able to push quicker. It allows for them. It's harder for Zerg to take a third base. So it definitely puts Zerg up against the wall.
Cool. How much of a commitment do you make with your early 2-Racks pressure?
I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't think Terran really makes any commitment at all with the 2-Racks opening. In fact, a lot of times I'll open 2-Racks and I'll build like 1 Marine, and I will just go make a command center. Like I'm not forced to do anything, but like the drone will scout it, the Marine will make him run off, and then I can actually just go straight into an economic play if I want to, But it's still like, because I have enough, units to keep Zerg kind of in the dark, especially on a lot of maps like Xel'Naga Caverns. It's not easy for like an Overlord just to get in real quick or something and see what I'm doing.
Right.
And so I can kind of, deny Zerg the scout to where I'm not committed to attack, but I still have the capabilities with that opening to put on early pressure or to force Zerglings or spine crawlers.
In the dark, and you're able to just do whatever you want and keep us guessing.
Exactly.
All right. Well, shit, I had a really good question, and now it's gone. Holy shit. All right, I'm going to send you my BattleNet info so that you have me available.
Okay.
That looks right. Oh yeah, now I remember. So we've been talking a lot about 2-Racks this week. We did a session with Jeff on Tuesday. We did one with Bryce yesterday, and today we're talking to you.
All right.
And Jeff and Bryce both say, well, as a Zerg player, you need to be going Mutiling Bane. and you just said that every Zerg player in the world is going Mutiling Bane, and it's kind of making Zerg players one-dimensional. Do you feel that there's another way Zerg can approach this matchup or this scenario of being face down against the Turax, other than the Mutiling Bane play that we've been seeing so much at the top?
I think mutas are a great thing to have because they can deny, you know, the drop play that Terran could abuse. You know, it kind of splits Zerg up and makes them kind of crazy. But I think infestors are highly underused in the matchup. Like, okay, for example, the ideal battle scenario for Terran is we have Marine medevac tank. Okay, that's our army composition. And we slowly push our tanks up to not necessarily like where they're attacking the base, because we don't have to have the tanks pushing the hatchery. Let's say Xel'Naga Caverns, I'm pushing your gold, okay?
Yeah.
But I don't have to have the tanks at the gold. I could have them at, you know, the Xel'Naga Tower, or, you know, along the ridge or something to give a better positioning for the tanks. And I could just use the range with my Marines to force the Zerg to attack eventually. I can just keep picking off with using stem and having my medevacs reheal my Marines, and just keep hitting the third base with my Marines and force you to commit, and while then I can just run away while having tanks focus the banelings, right? Standard scenario.
Right. I think every Zerg player is familiar with that rage-inducing scenario.
Exactly. But then Zergs that throw in like lots of infestors, that's shut down hard, and then I'm forced to do a completely different like strategy or a different style. Then I have to push with my tanks. Like, my tanks have to actually be in the front line at that point, which I think is a lot harder for Terran to get in that, you know, positioning.
Okay. Well, obviously, you're spending most of your time these days practicing Terran, so you might not have the same level of detail with this next answer that a machine might have. But you know, your suggestion that we go infestors is a really good one. I like infestors; they're a great unit. I don't make them nearly enough, and I think most Zerg players don't make them nearly enough. But I'm not really sure. I'm kind of at a loss when it comes to figuring out how we're going to pay for these infestors if we're also going to get everything else that we want. Do you have any maybe pointers or suggestions in that regard?
All right. Well, this comes to like every player has like their own style, and I know I practice with all the EG guys, and we have lots of Zergs. You know, we have Hydra, we have Machine, and we have Strife Crow. Those are like 3 powerhouse Zergs.
Yes.
Machine and Hydra almost play identical to each other.
Right.
They're both just like macro, you know, Mutiling, Baneling. They play by the book.
Yes.
Well, Strife Crow plays way different. He goes like Ling, Baneling, Infester until he has like 4 base, and then he'll like start throwing in mutas, like a lot of mutas or something, right? Because he has the bases to support it. But while he has like the Ling, Baneling, Infester with upgrades, like he gets upgrades. There's no question about it. Double Evolution Chamber, Melee, Carapace, upgrades. He has the capabilities to like keep holding map control. It's like I can't just like walk out with, you know, a group of Marines and medevacs or something. You know, he forces me to get these tanks or Thors or Banshees or something, you know, some kind of support unit to deal with these infestors that he solely makes. So I actually struggle with that style way more than the whole Mutiling Baneling opening.
All right, Ling, Baneling, Infester almost purely, and foregoing the Spire until we have a 3rd or 4th base?
Yeah, usually he'll lay the Spire like after he has his 3rd, but he doesn't like try to pump the mutas. He just holds the whole map kind of thing, where I can't do anything. And you know, with good creep spread, Zerg's so mobile to stop drops anyways.
Right.
It's not like I'm going to be able to like load up and just drop, you know, at places where you couldn't stop with like Zergling, Baneling, and Fester anyways.
Okay, well that's interesting. And you know, that's a style that we've seen a little bit. I know Day9 loves to show Damaga replays on his daily, and Damaga plays a sort of similar style with Ling, Bane, Infester, and he likes to add in some roaches as well. I've been asking Machine and Jeff about how they feel about roaches in this matchup. Do you have a take on the roach?
I see it sometimes. It's kind of rare to see actually nowadays, but I do see it sometimes, but I'm really not that impressed by the roach, even versus just like Marines. Like I don't think roaches are that great versus Marines. They can soak up a lot of damage from like tanks and stuff, but still sometimes I feel like the roaches kind of get in the way of like the banelings or something when you're like in a big attack or something like that. So I'm really not a big fan of roach baneling in that matchup. Now roaches of course destroy mech play. I think roaches are just like absolutely key in any kind of mech build, but other than that,
All right.
I don't think roaches really belong in the standard game.
Well, let's fast forward a little bit and kind of get into a more mid-game focused discussion before we
Alright.
jump in and start playing a couple games.
Alright.
Let's say that we've played, the first 8-10 minutes of the game, and here we are between that 10 and 15-minute mark where it's not quite the late game. You're probably making purely tank marine medevac right now. If I'm playing machine style, I've got Mutilating Bane. Sometimes I find that I get in these situations where the Terran will send out his army and we'll have an engagement, and basically everything dies. The Terran might have one marine left over and a tank, or I might have 2 Zerglings and a Baneling left over, but it's like a complete
It's just
wash.
an even trade.
Right. And as a Zerg player, I feel like that trade really is at the advantage of the Terran. I know that we've got our spawn larva mechanic to fall back on, but I feel like every wave of reinforcements after that for Zerg is a little bit slowed down because we have to actually wait on Banelings to morph after they hatch. And maybe you've been in this situation, maybe not, but I get in these games where we have that one big clash and it's just a wash, and then Terran reinforces, and then I reinforce, but I don't reinforce quite as quickly. And to me, that often feels like just this sort of losing battle where every time that Terran reinforcement wave comes, I lose a little bit more of the map, and I just don't know how to get back into a game from that kind of a position. I feel like the Zerg army is it can be overwhelming and amazing sometimes, but I feel like when you're making those super even trades, it runs out of steam because I guess units. Well, it's everybody knows that Zerg units aren't the most cost effective. I'm going to trade unless I get some really good Baneling hits. I'm going to be trading more stuff for cost than you are. Is that a scenario you're familiar with at all, and do you have any advice for us?
That's a very